Hi, I'm James Lister. Um, as you can see, my film is called Picture Perfect. You may ask why that is. I think because it's about photography, so I think, and about the whole thing is about finding the correct and the perfect picture for the competition, which is part of the storyline. So it's the perfect picture for him, and the perfect picture didn't sound as good as Picture Perfect. It has a better ring to it, I thought. The synopsis, as you can see, it's about photography, it's about romance, it's about prevailing, which obviously means rising above your crises and not and all your hurdles, and what he does for work and it's the crisis stuff. Well, first of all, his photography is. I was originally going to have him on a skateboard, but I thought that's a bit boring, so I decided photography because it's more creativity, and it's about being creative and obviously people have got phones all the time nowadays, so they can take a picture whenever. And some people like they take pictures and they're like, "Oh, that was a rubbish picture." So it's like creating the perfect picture. So photography is the perfect thing, and the photography is like he wants to do that rather than his own work. His work is just like he's bored with it. Romance is because in the film, he goes out to take pictures. He goes back to look at his pictures and he likes them, but he sees a girl in the background, and she just happens to be there. Then he goes back the following day, and he can't see her, but then he takes pictures and he sees her again, and it's like she's in the background for a reason. Just like the not just about photography, it's also about the romance of him getting the perfect picture, but she becomes his subject. So he has two reasons to go out for taking photography and changing his job. The prevailing is obviously because if you're in a job that you don't like, you've got to go through the hurdles of finding a new job because you can't finish. Can't leave your job. You've got to go around that of the whole, because his job is basically working in an office doing not just average paperwork that he doesn't like. He's got his own office, so he's obviously like a supervisor or something like that, or a manager of the area. So he's kind of, that's like at the beginning. I thought he bigs up his job and everything like that, so it shows that he's got all big and big, but in really he wants to change his job because he's not happy. And he's got a big window he looks out of, and he's thinking, this, why am I stuck in here with all this paperwork when I could be out there enjoying the world and taking bits I want to and seeing the world. As for the bike rider crisis, obviously there's got to be a crisis in a film, otherwise it's just boring, it's just flat. Or like a film goes from good to bad to bad to bad, that makes people interested and the viewer interested. So the crisis of the bike is basically like he's taking pictures, he's not looking around him, he just wants to get the perfect picture of where he is. And obviously bike riders are there, and they tend to ride mainly around parks because it's a lot safer for them, and for filming reasons it's safer to ride in the park than it is to ride on the road where the cars are and traffic noise. So I figured a crisis is like the bike can go into him, like he's walking back into the bike. The bike sees him at the last minute, but then instead of them banging into him, maybe it swerves round him if it's to save on the cost of a stunt coordinator. So his work is the bane of his life. So when he thinks, well, if I get a new job as a photographer, the photography is magazine is the competition is where he can win vouchers to get a new camera and stuff like that. So he can get better and maybe change his job from a boring job to a good job that he wants to do. And obviously the romance is the girl who happens to be in his pictures, and that's his second reason to go out there. Inspiration, well, as I said at the beginning, he talks to the camera and says about how he bigs his job up. And I figured, why does a film have to have so much dialogue? There's many films out there that don't have loads of dialogue, but they're talking to the camera, so they're kind of interacting with the audience. And I think in Malcolm in the Middle, Frankie Muniz, he talks to the camera. In House of Lies, Don Cheadle freezes it and talks and explains the situation to the audience rather than just talking over stuff. He sits, freezes it, and then goes back to the film, back to it, and I think that's really good. It's a different thing, and there's not many programs and films out there you're talking to the camera, and interacting with the audience, so they feel more like this, like the part of the show rather than, you know. And as for the 500 Days of Summer with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, he's not really the inspiration for the actual film, as in the whole scenario. He's more an inspiration of how the main character is going to be. He's kind of like has his messenger bag, and he's kind of like quite laid back and just does his job. He's a car. He draws card designs in the film, but so it's kind of in an office scenario, and a new girl starts, but this is the girl on the outside for my film. It's just about love and prevailing to overcome all these tasks, and like I said, the creativity is over a boring job like he has, and less dialogue for that, and that's the inspiration, because I think it's a really good concept, because everyone's always got loads of dialogue, and why do you need dialogue all the time in a film? Locations wise, there's offices and magazines. There's like the office where he works, the magazine place where he works. I'll talk to you about that later on. Park wise, a lot of parks are council owned, so if needs be, I figured I'll find just a strip of land with grass and stuff like that, because I know I have seen a strip of land in a film recently when I did some ADR with my mentors. I saw a piece thing that I could use for this whole, because it has a pathway you can use for bike riding, so that can get rid of the whole asking permission for the council. Terraced houses for his house, say for the house scene of him coming out of it and then in his lounge. You can either use my house maybe, or I'm sure there'll be someone on the crew, if I get, that'll have a house near university that I can borrow during the day when they're all out, even if it's only for the external and one shot inside maybe, so it's not too hard to find that. The bus stop is kind of like, in the film he's always getting the bus to work, so the bus is kind of like, he walks past the bus stop this time, so it's kind of a significant thing of like, why get on the bus? He goes towards it, the bus stop, and then walks past it as if to say, I like the park, so I'm going to, and it's beautiful outside, so why not go through, bypass the bus stop and go and walk to work and do what he wants to do. Coffee shop wise, you've got the whole asking for permission to be in a coffee shop, and obviously you've got to go in and out of it. But I figure the coffee shop is where he finds the actual the leaflet or whatever, or the poster for the competition, which sparks his mind to go from a boring job to what he wants. Because obviously, first of all, he has just a camera phone on his, so it's like you can't make that great of pictures on a camera phone if you just got a boring office job. So the coffee shop is kind of a significant place where he gets he sees the competition and all that lot. Funding wise, well, you've got, obviously, everyone knows about Kickstarter and the National Lottery. They do funding for short films. You have the British Film Institute, and there's a few I couldn't remember, but I googled a few and looked up a few, and the top ones on Google that I typed in for funding were the Kickstarter, indie film funding, and Cine Crowd. You obviously have crowdfunding as well, and you have other ones, but these are the top ones that came up on the search. These ones you can make like a small trailer, and people, the actual like Kickstarter and other ones like the top ones, they are funded by public. Like if someone reads the synopsis and thinks, oh, I'd like to get that, they can invest maybe £10 or £1 or how much they want, or list how much they want, and you have like you set an amount you need, and once it hits that, you get it. But then it doesn't stop there. You can triple the amount. As for National Lottery and British Film Institute, you've got to apply and show proof of what you need it for, and then they'll decide whether they want to grant you the information. That's something that if I got chose to do this film, because I know there's only so many people can do it out of 30 odd of us, only like 10 people who can film. As soon as I got the go ahead to film it, I would start applying and try and get funding and figure out the cost of everything. Because obviously we do have a funding thing at university for films, but I know it's not very much, so if I can be a step of the game and try and get more money to help with less cost of university and more cost of making the film a better film, then it's all the better. The shooting methods I decided, these are all just general shooting risks. I don't think there's any point in having loads and loads of daft shots, because sometimes you film a lot of stuff and they don't use it. So a wide shot obviously would be like him coming out of his room, out into his house. So that's a wide shot. You see his house. Be a wide shot of him in his in his office, and then you'll go to a mid shot or a close up of him talking to the camera. The cutaway ones, obviously we know that's like the cutaway of like the poster, or the cutaway of his watch is looking at it as it come out. It's mainly the cutaways are like the clock in the script. It shows to signify the time of day it is when he goes and leaves his office. That's a cutaway of a show of the clock. It just signifies, and rather than telling what time it is, it shows you. But on a 180-degree rule, as we all know, you can't cross the line, and only the actor can. So I'll be using that rule. So if one way is that way, then they'll mirror it the other way for the two people in the office when they're talking. His mate. I'll be shooting in university. That'll be for his office and for his maybe for his magazine. Didsbury area, that's easier because I think there's a small area for the bike, for the park. You got the bus stop, you got the terrace house possibly in Didsbury. So any as close as possible to university as I can. These are the different lenses I can use. I'm on a film set at the minute called Habit, which I'm learning a lot about lenses and about the film. So obviously these are different. The lenses I've heard the DOP, which is obviously director of photography. They're using all the time. I'm hearing and listening to it because so they're the general ones. It may change. This is just a guideline of what I think it's going to be like for it. Thanks very much for listening. If there's any questions, I'm ready to answer.
Thanks, James. How are you going to create this magazine office?
Well, I think to create a magazine office, as I said, I'm going to ask permission to use a room in university to create the whole office and create the magazine with all the partition for all the pictures of for the end scene, and obviously for the office for where he's working, and the magazine. Obviously, you've got to ask permission to use an actual magazine, so I've concoct a magazine like Perfect Picture Product Magazine or something like that, or Perfect or Picture Perfect, something like that. Hence the title of the film. So it'll be now around that, and because I've got to ask permission, I will ask. I'll create my own, so there's no asking permission for use of their images, because obviously you've got to ask permission for the magazine, for their permission to use their name and everything. So I'll create my own poster. So it's my idea, and there's nothing about doing everything and asking permission and all forgery and like that. That's all that stuff. Okay, next one, please.
Great. How are you going to do the stunt with the bike rider?
Well, because obviously I need a stunt coordinator, which should cost quite a bit. I figured instead of going into him, either the rider on the bike can ride towards him and then he misses it, and then he kind of pulls away and then goes in, or the rider will kind of bear left or bear right to try and avoid him and then hit the grass. And obviously, because it might hurt, I'll have a crash mat for when you don't see him close up, and then when you do see him close up, I'll have the bike. I'll just have him run diving kind of onto the actual grass, so it's not as high in high speed. So because when you're editing, you can obviously adjust that wise, and you can cheat it, and the audience won't see as much. I think there's many ways of doing these kind of stunts. There's been a few stunts on this film doing, and the different way they cheat things, and the camera can make things look in the way you make things look, and out. Because I think if you really think about it and you get things right, then stunts shouldn't be too hard. And obviously, as for the bike, I'll just I'll either buy one or a bike if I get decent funding or I'll borrow one or lend one off someone I know just for the day. Cause I'm sure somebody's willing to lend me the bike for a couple of hours. Okay, thank you.
Excellent. And how is your film like Malcolm in the Middle and House of Lies?
I feel it's like Malcolm in the House of Lies because, as I said before, I kind of gisted on a bit over to it. It was like although Malcolm in the Middle chats to the camera, but the show carries on, which I like, which is kind of what it's going to be like. Mine is going to like. I like whereas Don Cheadle's one on House of Lies. He kind of when it's going to start because he'll chat about something, and then the show will freeze. Everyone will just freeze like that, and then he'll walk to the camera and look at it and start chatting about it and basically put comedy like this guy's doing this. He's a load of bullshit. All this crap, all this crap, and then he'll go, he'll be like, and then he'll walk back to his thing and he'll know where he's left off and he'll go to him and it'll just go back to normal playtime. And I think that is very different, and it's what makes people hold it. Because I mean, if they didn't work, they wouldn't have lasted for however many seasons and years. These shows, and I think there's not enough shows out there or films out there where they talk into the camera. There's the odd one, but there's not many out there. So I think that's what makes mine different to others. Because a lot of student films that I'm doing in the minute, they're good, but there's a lot of dialogue. There's not much interacting with the audience. The audience is just watching them and have to figure it out, whereas they're interacting, so that makes it more personal. So even if it's not a great storyline, it makes you feel like you're in the story and you're sharing the film with the artist, the main character, rather than not, and you're just like watching it and you think, oh, that's boring. Well, it's not, because he's dragged you into the story. Next question, if there's one.
What percentage dialogue is going to be in your film then? About 5% or?
I think from what I've looked at, to be honest, there's probably no more than about 20 to 30% dialogue, because a lot of it is more about what he does and him showing how he feels and his story. There isn't much dialogue at all. There's only maybe out of the 12 to 14 pages of the script I've done, there's probably only about maybe three or four pages worth of that with dialogue. A lot of it's description and actions and about the just about it basically. So yeah, there's not much of really dialogue in it, because I don't think there needs to be with this kind of storyline. Anything else?
Oh, that sounds very interesting. Thanks very much, James.
Thank you.